This is my hair. This is almost 4 years of hair growth, and I made the decision that it was time for a change. I actually enlisted the help of my best friend. It was important to me that she was part of the change that I had decided for myself because the hair growth journey in itself was a huge change for me, and she was a big part of that. For those of you who have ever grown out hair, you know that there's that awkward phase. Actually, there's multiple awkward phases in your hair growth journey where you don't know what to do with it, you don't know how to style it, you don't know how to wear it, and it all becomes so cumbersome and frustrating that you almost want to just give up entirely. And it's in those moments that it really helps to have a friend in your corner who will encourage you and remind you why you embarked on this journey to begin with. And that's what she was for me. She helped me push through those difficult moments where I was just wanting to call it quits. I had never grown out my hair before this, so this was a big journey that I was undertaking. That's why it was important to me that she was also part of the actual cutting of the hair. She was able to cut off my ponytail, and then I got a buzz cut. And all this to say that this was a really big deal for me, and also pretty dramatic. I know, I'm well aware. It's in my last video, which was the first video on this channel, that I had the long hair. And to be honest, by then I was already thinking of cutting it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about in this video, get into the entire process and why I made the decision to grow the hair out in the first place, and what I learned from all of it. Deciding to grow my hair out in the first place was already a big step, and this was now 3-4 years ago. I don't know the exact dates, but all my life I have had pretty short hair, and the longest it ever was when I had the Justin Bieber hairstyle that, you know, a lot of us had, the swoop, where you had to swoop your hair with your neck like this to get it out of your eyes. That was the longest it ever was, and that was back in like high school. So when I cut it for the first time to have a sort of like boyish haircut, it was really interesting because I started getting positive feedback, and I did not have any self-confidence at the time. I'm still working on building that, but I can say I have some more now than I did back then as a kid. And so all of a sudden, getting positive reinforcement from a haircut, my response at the time was then to attach to that haircut that my inherent value in, I don't know, being desirable or being attractive was tied directly to my hair, and that it wasn't something innate or internal, but external and something that I could control. And so that was hair. That was my hair for a very long time. As I got older, a lot happened, and I'm sure eventually I'm going to make more and more videos delving into the plethora of journeys that I went on. But as I got older, I started to question many things, started to change my relationship with myself and with people around me. And it got to the point where I think I was beginning to manifest a lot of these changes physically. And so that did include growing of facial hair and grooming. This actually wasn't the first time I've tried a buzz cut. Before deciding to quit my job or travel full time, I had made the decision to try the buzz cut, and it was really interesting. At the time, I didn't have facial hair, so I was still shaving every single day because that was something that I hadn't let go of yet. But I was bold enough to try the buzz cut, and I did enjoy it because it helped me let go of my fear around it, that if I had a buzz cut, that I would no longer be desirable or maybe even human, to be honest. I know that sounds like a bit of a stretch, but when you tie so much of yourself, your identity, to something outside of you, even if it's a part of you, like your hair, it's still outside of you internally. So when you attach yourself to that and that thing changes, it gets taken from you, or you make the decision to change it. What are you outside of that? What's left? And that's what I was discovering the first time I had the buzz cut. So from there, I was starting to try and experiment with growing facial hair. I was raised in a household where having facial hair was highly discouraged, and therefore I didn't really question much about that. I just knew that it was important to shave every day and to be presentable and that sort of thing, and that would carry over into how I presented myself in life and in work. A lot of societal conditioning also deems that grooming for men is very important, and that grooming can look like no facial hair, and that's what can be dignified or professional, which I don't fully agree with. And I know it's case by case. It's different for different countries and regions, but the ones that I was engaging with and connected to, that messaging was there. And it was reinforced heavily by the people in my family and the home environment that I was growing up in. All this to say, as I started experimenting with grooming, one of the natural questions became, what happens if I don't cut my hair? Just like what happens if I don't shave every day? Well, a beard forms. What happens if I don't cut my hair every couple weeks, every month or so? Well, it grows and it keeps going and going. And I wanted to see how far I could take it. Eventually, it got to those awkward stages, like I said earlier, and that's where it was so life-changing to have the support of a friend. It's not like my friend forced me to do anything at all. She just offered words of encouragement and a reminder of what I'm doing in the first place and why I wanted to do it. And it helped me so much because it got me over a lot of the awkward hurdles. Eventually, I got to the point where I could put my hair up in a ponytail, in a bun, and that was really exciting. And then it kept growing and growing and growing. A lot of the appeal that the long hair had for me was this idea of low maintenance, which actually I've come to find out isn't entirely true. But at the time I thought, wow, so great. I don't have to style my hair because for decades, yeah, I can say decades, I was styling my hair with pomade, with gel, and it was tiring. So I started wearing hats a lot. But with longer hair, I could just tie it up into a bun, and that was it. And I loved that. It felt low maintenance because the maintenance of caring for long hair, meaning like, the arduous shampoo days, it was outweighed by the ease with which I could put my hair up and leave for the day and be presentable. Not only just presentable, but more like presentable for me in that I felt that I looked good. And that's really all that mattered. I enjoyed how I looked. I felt the most me I had in the longest time ever. And I had falsely attributed that to the hair. Now, that does not mean it wasn't true at the time, because where I was at the time, it was very much true that I felt the most me ever, and it was because of my hair. That is true. But it's not that it's become false now, but more so that my idea of it has expanded to now understand that it's not really about the hair. And maybe it never really was, but it was a great way to explore that about me. I think for me, the way I grew up, I was pretty discouraged from self-expression, especially self-expression that deviated from what my parents wanted, and then tack onto that what society would want. And as the years went on and I started experimenting with myself, and even though I was afraid, trying new things, I started realizing how much of me I would feel when I started exploring different aspects of self-expression, like getting ear piercings or tattoos, things like that. Eventually playing with grooming, facial hair, hair length, that sort of thing. And each time I would feel more and more like myself, like I was finding myself finally and attributing it to these external things while still very close to me, like literally physically close, like a piercing or a tattoo is on your skin. Your hair is coming out of your head. That's as close as it can get physically, but they're not fully me because me is internal. And I think if you get that, let me know in the comments. I'm referring to the you that exists beyond your physical form, but a lot of it is also present in how you express, how you groom, how you look, the styling choices you make, things like that. So because of that, my hair journey was hugely, hugely important. I was loving going out every day and having long hair. And there were a lot of challenges too, because as my hair grew long, I was having to find different ways of putting it up. And while that exploration was exciting, there were also times where it felt pretty daunting. Eventually, I learned how to put my hair up using hair sticks, and that felt like a huge accomplishment. And the first time I would walk out of the house with hair sticks, it felt like I was a fraud. I have seen things from people online echoing something similar where, for example, if you're not a hat person, the first time you wear a hat and you leave the house, you think immediately that everyone has clocked you. Everyone sees that you're not a hat person, and they know you're a fraud. Even though no one gives a fuck, they're just going about their day. You internally feel like a fraud. It's the same thing with maybe the first time you wear a specific color or cut of clothing or a hair length. You immediately think that people are aware that you're a fraud. But that's all just internal, as you know. But yeah, going out for the first time with hair sticks was interesting. And then it was pretty uneventful obviously, because no one actually gives a fuck. And then it became easy. And then the same thing happened the first time I was able to put my hair up with a hair clip. I was worried, oh, is that too feminine or does that look too weird? No one gave a fuck. And eventually I came to love the hair clip too. That's what this journey was for me. For so long, with my hair being the length that it was, I was able to explore so many different ways of putting it up and going out and having that be easy compared to the decades of hair product and having to style my hair every time and getting monthly to every couple weeks haircuts. It was a lot. And through contrast, it felt like my long hair was the best thing ever. And it really was. I'm speaking from the future now because I didn't know that eventually I would reach this point where I would cut it all off. At the height of the experience, I thought that I would be keeping long hair forever. And that was that because it was so great in comparison to what I had experienced before. Another aspect specifically that I was exploring with the long hair was this idea of masculinity and how it is supposed to look compared to what it actually may be and what it maybe has always been this whole time. Long hair isn't inherently feminine. It's human, really. Men and women can have long hair, and if you look at historical pieces, you see everywhere that there was a time where men had long hair. There's still times now where men have long hair in indigenous cultures and maybe places where the media doesn't cover as much, but it's a thing. I think we've all been so brainwashed, myself included, that masculinity has to look a certain way, that it has to look or be a certain thing, and that's simply not the case. But the conditioning is strong. It's incredibly strong. And this ties back to my idea of being attached to my hair, that maybe my hair being what makes me attractive or desirable, lovable, ultimately, it's something I need to cling on to, and I can't possibly lose it or change it. Because if I do, all that goes away. It's not true, but that's something that we each have to discover for ourselves. We can't know until we try. And it's scary. If you're watching this, maybe you yourself have something that you're attached to. It could be your hair, if you think about it. It could be the way you groom yourself, the clothing, the cuts. It's just anything about you that you have a positive association with. And so you've attached to it. Your identity is attached to it because it's a positive thing. Why wouldn't you want to identify with something so positive, something that you get compliments on, something that makes you feel good? But on the flip side, if that changes, if that's taken away from you, or you change and you are wondering if it's something that you can change, you can remove from you, or you can grow from, it can be really scary because now what are you identifying with? That thing is gone. It was either taken from you or you removed it or you changed it. So tying that with masculinity, it's like, well, as I grew my hair out, was I any less of a man? No. I was very much still a man, whatever that means, actually. Maybe more accurately, I can say I was still me, and I do identify as a man. I do feel like a man, even though for many times throughout my history, my journey, I have felt like a bit of a fraud here and there. My best friend, she's a woman, and she has expressed how she felt like she had to navigate being a woman on her own, and that's something I relate to as well as a man. That was something I was navigating on my own too. Even though, yes, I had a father and a male presence in my life, I still didn't really feel that connected. Growing up, the environment was not supportive in the way that I needed it to be, and so it felt like I was navigating a lot of things on my own, and so that included being a man. And then you tack onto that being queer, and then you really start to question everything. Like, are you really a man? Are you really a man if you find other men attractive? Are you really a man if you have long hair? Are you really a man if you can't grow a full beard, or if it's patchy in any way? Or are you really a man if you're not super buff, if you're slim or skinny? Are you a man if you are short? All these ideas, none of it's attached to manhood, but culture, society at large, and then trickled down through the family units, your caregivers. They have all ingested that messaging and then put it right onto you as a child. And now you, as a little boy growing up into a man, have all these ideas in your head of what a man is supposed to look like and be. Another question, are you a man if you have emotions, if you cry? And I say yes, but I know it takes a while to get to that point for many men. And unfortunately, there are many men today who still haven't understood that and gotten to that point. I have faith and trust and hope that they will eventually, but it is an individual journey, for better or worse. We all have to come to that on our own. the patriarchy does harm us all. It absolutely harms women. And that is an entire video in itself, but it does harm men too. I think ultimately the role of men is to be in support of women, to lift them up and have them be the leaders of community. And I think they are the most suited for that. And men are the most suited for being in roles of support, true support. And you can be a leader in the way you support too. You can lead as support. Like even those things, those concepts don't have to look like any one way or thing. We only have what they have looked like in recent memory. But even then, all of humanity, we don't have access to that immediately right now. Do you actually know what the cavemen were like or what many of our civilizations over time have actually been like? We only know what history writes, and we know that history can be tampered with. History can be full of lies because it's written by the victors, right? So if the victors want to fill in that, for example, matriarchies in the past didn't work, well, that's because they want to push an agenda that the patriarchy is what they want, when in fact, matriarchies probably worked. And that's one of many examples that I'm thinking of right now. Ultimately, if you're a man or male identifying watching this and you want to grow long hair, I say go for it. Go for it, go for it, because your hair doesn't define you. But in the process of seeing what parts of yourself you identify with in your hair, it helps you remember the bigger picture of who you are. And that can be a really gratifying experience. It can be a very validating experience. And you don't have to grow it out just to eventually cut it. You can grow it out forever. You do whatever you want, whatever makes sense for you. And then I would say the same also on the flip for any women or women identifying people. You can cut your hair short. You can get a buzz cut, and that doesn't make you any less of a woman. You are a woman. That's what makes you a woman. That's straight, simple. So then that brings me to, why did I cut my hair? Why, after years and years of this hair growth journey, did I end up cutting it? I've already touched on this and hinted at this a couple times in this video, but it basically comes down to this idea that I no longer am identifying with my hair. The things that I identified with it, within it, I was starting to absorb those things. I was pulling them closer into my internal world, something further than skin deep or organ deep or bone deep. I'm talking, the unseen, the form you are beneath all this, your soul, your consciousness, whatever it is. I don't know the words, but I was beginning to absorb and identify all those things within myself. And so the symbol of hair, it was no longer necessary for those things. I was beginning to get to a point where I was noticing the maintenance of the hair more and more. That is one thing. With longer hair, you do have to wash it with a bit more effort because there's literally more hair to wash. Therefore, there's more maintenance to it. And for the longest time, I was okay with that maintenance because it felt invisible in contrast to how much I was gaining from having long hair, how much me I felt having long hair, how much I was exploring with long hair. But it was coming to a point where I was no longer needing those things from my hair. And so the maintenance started becoming more and more visible. And then to a point, sometimes got frustrating. And so I was considering, is it time for a change? And I was mulling that over for a bit. The first time I actually had that thought, it popped into my head, I was averse. I was like, whoa, no. What are you thinking? You can't go back if you do that. Which, yes, I can come back. I can always grow my hair out again if I want to, but it would take time. And so I was afraid initially. I was like, why are you thinking that? You love this hair. You have loved having long hair for so long, and it's so easy to put up, and you love how it looks and how it feels, and all that was true. So then why did this thought come up, and why does it scare me so much? And sitting with that for longer and longer, I started to think about all these things, and I started realizing that I did not need my long hair anymore to identify these things within myself that I've attached to my long hair. By the way, I feel the need to say that anytime I'm talking about the hair specifically, I want you to know as a viewer that I'm not just talking about hair. I'm talking about whatever it is anyone can identify with. You can attach with your jewelry, your grooming, your hair, your clothes. Again, I've said this kind of a couple times in this video, but I really want to reiterate this, that it's not just about hair when I'm talking about hair. So yeah, I was identifying that I did not need the hair in the same way that I was needing it for so long. And so there was a sadness to that, for sure, because this was years and years and years of my life. I hadn't cut my hair for so long, and it was so normal to me for so long. Change is really, really scary. It's so scary. It's scary because you don't know what's on the other side. What is the unknown on the other side of this change? Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be alive? Are you going to be dead? It's just so many questions. And the only way you can have an answer is to go through the change. Sometimes these changes are forced on you. Reality, the universe has other plans and you didn't have a say in the change that happened. Other times, like this with my hair, the change comes to you and you have to be brave enough to explore it and lean into it. It took a bit of time before I got to the point where I decided that I was going to cut my hair, because initially I was putting it off for a bit because I was like, I don't know what to make of this idea of cutting my hair off. Why would I do that? And then eventually I got to accept it and realize, yeah, the maintenance is piling up and I'm getting sick of it. So I'm going to cut it right now. I tend to move in extremes, which is another thing about me that I'm still learning to explore. I still need to understand that about me, but at least that much I know that I do move in extremes, and sometimes that can be to my benefit, other times maybe not. But yeah, I was thinking pretty immediately that once I understood that I was having a lot of issues with the maintenance and the upkeep of long hair, that I was just going to cut it. And so I was talking with my friend who was there with me from the beginning of this hair journey and way before then too. And she did encourage me to think on it, sit on it, process it, and really feel through this monumental decision that I'd be making. And I have for a bit now. And now that I'm on the other side of that change, I know it was the right decision to make. But it was important for me to get to that point little by little. It might seem dramatic to you as a viewer because, again, my first video on this channel is me with long hair, and then now the second video is literally me with a buzz cut. But I can assure you from this side of the camera that it did take some time. I was processing this on a pretty daily basis, and then I got to this decision point. Another reason why I cut it was this idea of rediscovery. When I started thinking about the idea of cutting my hair after years of not having it cut, I started thinking about how we can reread books as humans. You read a book, you love it, and then you reread it later and you get new insight from it that you didn't the first time around. It's almost surprising because you literally already read this book. How did you not get this insight the first time? And that's because you change. You're always changing, always growing. And so that changes your perspective on things. You have maybe a bigger, more expanded view than you did the first time you read the book. And so your takeaways and your insights are different, even though it's literally the same book with the same words. And so I thought maybe that's what this hair journey would be, is that once I have finished, and I decided that I finished the journey of having long hair, that I could start rereading the book of hair growth, if that's what I wanted to do. Right now I'm at a point where I'm not sure if I'm going to grow my hair out again, or if I'm going to get it regularly cut, or what. I don't know. I haven't made that decision yet, but those future decisions weren't exactly the reason why I made this decision to cut it off in the first place. I'm in a place now that's pretty open to anything. Open because I have opened that door. I've allowed the change to come into my life. I made the decision to cut the hair, and now I will see what happens. But I do think that no matter what happens, I will gain more insight. I'll always get new insight because I'm open to it. And all it costs is you to go through change, to make a decision, a life-altering decision, even if you're scared, even if you're terrified. Make that decision, because I don't think that there really is any wrong decision. I think that's, for better or worse, part of being human. The human experience is to make decisions, to go through change, whether it's thrust on you or it's self-imposed. You can always discover more about yourself through change. And this is coming from someone who really appreciates routine. I love a good routine, and I enjoy eating the same foods a lot or going to the same environments. And so traveling like this, like I have been doing with my best friend, has been a challenge for sure, because there's nothing stable about this. Being unemployed and traveling full time, not knowing fully what the future holds. It's like I'm in one long haircut transition point where I'm not even at the buzz cut part yet. I'm like still cutting the hair off. I don't know what comes on the other side of this decision. Still going through it. But even in this transition point are transition points with hair, transition points with grooming, transition points with how I'm viewing myself, getting on YouTube here, maybe another transition point. And when I say transition, I mean just change, trying new things, trying different things, as scared as you are. To be completely honest, there's still a part of me that is very scared every time I hit record and start talking, because I don't know how this is going to be received, who's going to receive it, how I'm going to be perceived. I mentioned in my last video that I'm still on the journey of self-love and self-acceptance. I don't fully, unconditionally love every part of me yet. I know that takes time. I know that may take a lifetime, but I'm willing to go on that journey. And so the hair is part of that. It's a big part of it. And now that I have finished the change and I cut the hair off, I think I can embark on this new hair journey, whatever that may be. And maybe it's not even a journey about hair at all, because this whole time I've been saying in this video that I'm not really just talking about hair. Yes, I am, but I'm also not. So there's probably more to come. And I hope you have enjoyed watching this video and you got something out of it too. Let me know in the comments if you resonate with anything I've said. If it's about hair, if it's about your clothes, about your appearance, about anything that's you, but also not you. You know what I mean? I think we all have something to gain when we are all self-reflective and think about ourselves internally. What is our internal experience like, and how does that manifest itself externally outside of us, even with our appearance, which we may feel that's us, but it's not. You're not your body. You're not your name. You are these things on one level, but on another level, that's not you fully. Now, I can't tell you what you are entirely. Only you can define that for yourself. But in order to do so, I think you need to embrace change, as scary as it is. It's through change that we know what we are, what we aren't, what we want to be. If you made it this far, thank you very much. I appreciate anyone watching these videos. I'm realizing I'm a little slow to post onto TikTok or Instagram, but eventually I would like to. I think right now I'm still in this weird nervous energy about posting, but it's okay. I will get there. You'll know I get there when you see any post on social media. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.